Welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm, having a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. This show is dedicated to helping accounting professionals confidently and competently offer quality accounting services to get paid what they're worth. Each episode is conversational with tips and tricks to help you get the principles of MAP applied in your business, such as marketing, accounting, the pricing of your services, the accounting services you're offering with value added. We're also talking about practice management, staff training, client onboarding procedures, client retention, and relationships. This podcast will actually help you to become an accountrepreneur, to work on your business with advice from the experts. I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them both start and build successful accounting, bookkeeping, tax, and consultative businesses. In this process, I've had the pleasure of meeting wonderful individuals as they've gone through that effort of starting and building their companies to offer quality services, and I invite you to do the same. I'm excited to actually represent Universal Accounting Center as well. Universal Accounting Center has been around since 1979, offering quality training, resources, coaching, and support to help individuals get the certifications and the confidence they need to actually start and build their accounting businesses. So I invite you to learn more about Universal Accounting Center and how it can actually help you in your quest to have the premier accounting firm. Today we have a special guest. Donna, I'm excited to have you on here because I've known you, I've known your husband for a while. This is going to be kind of an exciting adventure. So let me just start with a little bit of a description of who Donna is. She actually, from a young age, when she grew up, wanted to do something that would allow her to reach her full potential and create her own destiny, which is why it was inevitable that she would become an entrepreneur. Before starting her business, however, she was a Wall Street executive. In fact, in 2009, she completed coaching certification training and melded her business with coaching skills to follow her true passion, giving entrepreneurs the tools to create their dream businesses and dream life. Donna is currently the president and co-founder of Pumpkin Plan Your Business. She is on a mission to save small businesses from extinction by providing business tools, strategies, training, and support to business professionals who want to make a big impact by becoming small business growth strategists. Now, she is actually a great person to reference with the Pumpkin Plan Action Guide because it's actually a business growth program that she developed based on the methods within the book, The Pumpkin Plan, written by her co-founder, Mike Michalowicz. Pumpkin Plan strategies help small businesses not just stay afloat, but to scale and grow both in profitability and size, while allowing the business owner to take back control of their life, their time, and enjoy life as well. At the end of the day, Donna believes entrepreneurs make or break the economy. Her goal is to make sure that they grow, thrive, and have the opportunity to create their own destiny. So Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Roger. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of fun. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. In that introduction, obviously it speaks of at a very young age, you knew you wanted to grow up and do something quite influential. Tell me about that. What's that referencing?
Well, I was one of those kids who, when people would ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I really didn't know how to answer it because there wasn't a profession in mind. I just knew I wanted to do something big and I wanted to do something that made a difference. And I think I always sort of resisted the idea of doing things somebody else's way. So I
the
think I
status
was
quo
really
wasn't good enough.
Exactly. I kind of wanted to do things my way. So I was never the best employee. I'm much better running my own business.
So at a young age, was there maybe a father figure, a family member, a mentor, maybe a show that was helping you have that aspiration?
Well, actually, since you asked, Roger, my father also always wanted to have his own business. And when I was, how old was I? I was probably about 10 years old when he started his first business. Then we had some issues with the economy. That business didn't make it. But a few years later, he did start his own business again. So I guess he was definitely my model in terms of this idea that you can create your own destiny and also just not to give up on your dreams.
So, if I could, I'd like to explore that a little bit because a lot of the people that I know that are raised in entrepreneurial families, when mom or dad has a business, it's a family business. And in order to spend time, for example, at a young age with mom or dad, it actually involves going to work. If that's what you wanted to do, is spend time with mom or dad, it meant you went to work with them. So tell us about your upbringing. Was your family such that it was, in fact, that family business, and in order to spend quality time, you had to go to work?
Actually, it was not. My father worked on Wall Street and he worked very long hours, and we didn't see him very often. So he was more of a mythical figure in my life rather for a long time rather than an actual presence.
So, when you were younger, in the bio, obviously it speaks of you becoming a Wall Street executive. So, it appears you followed somewhat of that path.
I did, yes.
So, what was it that led you to then leave that and want to start your business? What was that pivot then?
So honestly, Roger, I think we've all experienced this that there are a lot of influences in our lives. And when we're young, especially, people can push us in a direction rather than as a young adult, let's say, going in a direction that you think is right for you. We, I think, have a tendency to listen to the people in our lives who we look up to and respect. So I went to Wall Street because I was encouraged to do that. And I got an MBA in finance because I thought that would help me. But the truth is that that was not where my passion was. My passion was really with entrepreneurship and small business. And it took me a number of years to realize I didn't have to follow in somebody else's footsteps. I could blaze my own trail.
I like that. So, as you come to that point in your life where you're going to make that transition, was it something that was maybe forced upon you? Was it an opportunity, a risk that you took? Tell us about that change.
Well, I spent a number of years coming up with all sorts of business ideas that I never followed up on
Okay.
because, it's easy to dream, it's not so easy to act. Actually, I left Wall Street to raise my family, and I knew I wasn't going back to that. So when my kids were very young, I what I was thinking, maybe now's the time. I'm already home. I don't have to quit a job to do this. And in 2002, I did start my first business, and it was a jewelry company. And I had a business partner, and I learned overnight that being a small business owner was very different from what I learned in business school. So my MBA did not fully prepare me to be a small business owner. And while there were a few things that we did really well, there were a lot of things that we just had to learn by trial and error.
Yeah. So I can relate to that. One, conceptually in your mind, you think it goes one way. When you implement it, doesn't necessarily fall the way you expect it. So, what were some of the lessons you recall learning back when you started that company?
Uh,
What was different than what you expected?
what was different? Well, I realized that I if you work for a big company, you're siloed, right? So if you major in finance, you go into a finance job and you're doing finance. Or if you major in marketing, then you're going into a marketing job. But when you're a small business owner, you really have to understand all phases of the business. You have to understand all of the areas. So the numbers piece we were pretty good with. We always had a profit. We actually started the business on my personal credit card, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I think anybody who works with small businesses might find that familiar. And we essentially started turning a profit within a month.
Good.
So that piece was good. A lot of the other a lot of the other areas of the business, some of them we learned how to deal with as we went along, but others we kind of never learned until after we had already walked away from that business and moved on to other things. And then I was looking back and thought, okay, what if I had known then what I know now, I could have done things differently to make it easier for me to run that business and run it efficiently and profitably, and not be burned out. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, as I'm sure you know, just reach that point where they're completely burned out and they feel like they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I think what you're offering there is an important point because it's perspective, and when any of us in life can look back, we can have that hindsight, and that's actually quite telling. But that's, I think, very important for when we have later on in our discussion a conversation about coaching and such. I think that's where it comes in, is you have, with your own experience, having run your business, that unique experience as a business owner. You've been in the trenches, you've done it. And I loved how you described when you work in a larger company, you get to be siloed in what it is you perhaps trained for. And that's hopefully a passion of yours, something that you're really good at. But when you're a business owner, that's not the luxury of owning the business. That's a siloed mentality. In reality, owning the business means you have to be basically gray at many things, and you're wearing those proverbial hats, all those responsibilities. And what we want to do is, over time, is start getting to the point where we can delegate these to other individuals, whether inside or outside of the company. But that's we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me come back to, you had that business, you started it on your own credit card. Let's jump ahead then, and let's talk about Pumpkin Plan. How were you introduced to that?
Okay, so after running the jewelry business for about 7 years, as I mentioned or hinted at, I did start to feel burned out. And I stopped and did a little soul searching and really asked myself, is this the business that is my passion? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And when I dug down deep, the answer was no. Part of it was because, like I said, I was just kind of burned out from being on that hamster wheel of sell, deliver, and never feeling like I could get ahead. And I also felt like I wanted to do something that would have a bigger impact on the world and something that would be more fulfilling for me. So, what I decided to do was get trained and certified as a coach. So, I went through life and business coach training, and it was life changing for me. And I realized as I was going through that training, what I really wanted to do was work with other entrepreneurs to get them past all of those roadblocks and obstacles that I had encountered as a small business owner and help them be more successful. So I went out after I finished that certification, and I was armed with my coaching skills and my business knowledge and my experience. And I struggled. And what I struggled with at first was, how do I explain to a business owner what I can do for them?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make this tangible? So I had to learn how to talk about what I could do in terms that were not vague, but were actually quite specific about why I could help them get past the things that they were struggling with. So I figured that out, and then I realized as I was working with business owners that I felt like I was reinventing the wheel all the time. I was constantly wondering, well, what should I do next with this person? And what should I do first? And what's going to work? And I was putting so much energy into that it was getting exhausting. So again, I realized, okay, I'm missing something here. And so I started kind of looking around and asking around. I knew what I was missing was a process.
Yep.
And during that time, a mutual colleague introduced me to Mike McAllowitz. And Mike was about to publish the Pumpkin Plan. And he had this idea that he wanted to turn the methods in the Pumpkin Plan into a coaching process. And so it was kind of like chocolate and peanut butter, right? We were like, oh my gosh, you have what I need. You have what I need. And we spent a long time talking about what we could do with the Pumpkin Plan and how we could make a difference in the world if we came together and created this coaching company. And so right before the book was published, we launched our business. And we started by working with business owners ourselves, working through what was already in the Pumpkin Plan and then creating new tools as we went along and seeing what worked and what didn't work.
So there's a few things here that I think are hugely important because I believe a lot of the accounting professionals that are listening to this conversation find themselves after a number of years getting to the point where, with confidence, they see things within their clients or within business that they have an intuitive nature to look at a company, especially through the financial reports, and using that lens, see places within the company that could be improved upon or changed, and from a business point of view, bettered, let's say. But the challenge becomes, how do you consult and advise that? And in your case, you went through and got certified. And with that certification, you run into a situation of you've got great insights and you've got some actionable, I think, methodologies, but there becomes an issue of duplication. You need a process, as you were describing, and every accounting professional would love to have that consultative relationship with their clients where they can be paid for providing that strategic value beyond just the traditional financial reports. But to do so where you're just shooting from the hip and just kind of winging it all the time really becomes exhausting and sometimes not very profitable. And as you pointed out, when you find a system that you can use, it then allows you to move forward with confidence. And in, I think, your most important point, it also starts from how do you sell it? Well, having a process that you can refer to and have it be seen as a turnkey experience means that the business owner can pay you to put them in at the beginning and have them plan on and come out at the other end with some deliverables. And so I liked how you described and introduced that. So with Pumpkin Plan, you start the business. What are some of the high level things, just to help the listeners understand what Pumpkin Plan is referring to? What are some of the high level things that you're seeing a business owner needs to kind of systematically address or go through?
So, what we find with any small business, and by the way, I work with a lot of accounting firms. A lot of our pumpkin plan strategists are accountants and bookkeepers and own accounting and bookkeeping firms, or they send their employees through our program. So, I'm very familiar with the industry. The thing with any small business is most people, and I did this too, most people start their business because they have an idea. And that idea may be, I'm a great accountant and I don't want to work for that guy anymore. I'm going to start my own business. Or it might be, I am a great jewelry designer. I'm going to design my own jewelry and sell it myself. Whatever you're good at, or people say to you, you should start a business around that. And you say, that's a great idea. And you go out and you start your business and most of us, we hit the ground running and we figure things out as we go along. And maybe we have some early success, but then usually at some point we hit a wall and we find that we are struggling to grow. And there are a number of reasons why you might be struggling to grow. But the underlying reason is that you don't have a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We have tactics that we've implemented, but most of us have never implemented, have never figured out what our underlying strategy is. And that's why every time we make a move, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall because we're waiting to see what sticks. And if you have a strategy, then you understand all of your tactics in your business, whether they're internal or external, flow from that strategy. Does that
So
make sense?
yes. Well, I think one of the things that every business owner really can relate to as an entrepreneur is the ideas are there. I think as an entrepreneur, we have the thoughts coming to us regularly. The question is the implementation of them and having a strategy and coming up with a very clear process that we're going to use in implementing. So I like how you're describing it. So let's talk about the sweet spot then. Obviously, this is something that relates in essence to accounting. So let's get to that.
Okay. So to understand the sweet spot, if it's okay, I'd like to explain the pumpkin analogy.
Okay.
So the reason why the book is called The Pumpkin Plan and why our process is called the Pumpkin Plan Action Guide is because what Mike Michalowicz realized, had a light bulb moment one morning, is that growing an exceptional business is similar to growing a giant pumpkin. So
Yep.
I hope that you've seen those giant 1-ton pumpkins.
Yeah,
They
the
are not
competitive ones
ordinary
at the
pumpkins.
fair.
Yeah. So the if you want to grow an ordinary pumpkin, you do what everybody else does. But if you want to grow a giant 1-ton pumpkin, you have to do things a little differently, not hugely differently, but a little bit differently. And when you want to grow a giant pumpkin, the first thing you have to start with is a special seed that actually has the capacity to grow into a 1-ton pumpkin. It's kind of like Jack and the Beanstalk, right? You
Yeah.
need the special seed that's going to grow the beanstalk. You can't just take a regular packet of pumpkin seeds that maybe you buy at the local farm store and throw them in the ground and expect that one of them is going to turn into a giant pumpkin. So it's the same with your business. You need to start your business with a special seed that has the capacity to grow to the size and profitability that you want it to grow to. And that is what we call the sweet spot.
So when you have that seed and you're talking to a business owner about their company, how do you typically relate that? Or what's the allegory that you help them kind of embrace?
So the sweet spot, if you could visualize this, is the intersection of three key areas of your business. So picture like a Venn diagram where you have three circles and they intersect in the middle. And the three circles represent your top clients, your unique offering, and your systems and processes.
Perfect.
So those are the three areas. And the place where they intersect, meaning that product or service offering where all three of those meet, is your sweet spot.
So let's define each of those three, because I think the intersection of those is quite important, especially for the accounting professional who's working on their business and trying to really fine tune it. So let's start with the client side. Let's begin there with that of the three.
Yeah. So this is a big one. Any business, when you first start, you take any customer or client you can find, and you are just out there to get started and attract some customers. Once you are operating, you can start to find that some of your clients or customers are just better than others. And if you think about the 80-20 rule, which basically says 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your effort, in this case, 80% of your profit actually will come from 20% of your clients. But your top clients, as we define them, it's not only about how much revenue they bring in. It's about a lot of different factors that can affect how you do business. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that I would think all or most of the accountants who are listening to this now have a client that they consider, or maybe more than one client that they consider to be a pain in the you know what. And if you think about, excuse me, if you think about the time and effort and energy that client takes away, or, kind of sucks out of your company, and then think about how you could use that energy elsewhere, you'll start to realize that those clients are not actually helping your business. They're hurting your business.
Yep.
So any client is not necessarily a good client.
I like that. The way we usually describe it is, at first, when you're taking on your clients, there's a good deal of satisfaction that comes from getting a new client. You get a new engagement, you've got something to celebrate. But over time, what you're going to start to notice is more than just the work. You're going to start seeing, I enjoy working with this kind of business owner as an individual. I like people that enjoy this kind of discussion, that need this kind of information, that run their business this certain way. The other thing that I think becomes more apparent is you start to like certain industries, and you start to have a preference clients towards a certain niche. And then the other thing that I think also becomes evident is you'll have clients that may expect you to work on site, let's say once a week, once a month. You'll have others that are fine having you work remotely. Well, you're going to define then which of those works you prefer. And then all of a sudden you're going to identify, well, if I had an ideal client, it would be working with this type of a business owner that likes to discuss and review their financials, that is interested in my input and suggestions, that doesn't mind paying me a premium for the advice and questions that I bring to them to help them think outside the box. I like a client that trusts me with the information and allows me to work offsite so I don't have to commute and go to their office and work at their facility. I'm able to stay focused on what I'm doing at my own office. You start to define your ideal client, and I think it's through experience that comes, and then the 80-20 rule becomes a lot more evident. And now you're starting to identify, when I take on my next client, I'm going to make these type of expectations more clear. I'm going to say this is the type of referral I'm looking for. And all of a sudden, over time, you start to hone in a lot better on what it is you're trying to offer as an accounting business and with whom you want to work. So I think that's very well said. So let's go to the second thing then. Which one do you want to do next? Which of the two?
We can talk about unique offering next.
All right, let's talk about the offering then. Describe how we refine and get to what it is that we're truly doing as a business.
So this is really key. A lot of businesses, when you ask them, well, what makes you unique? Why should somebody hire you instead of the accounting firm down the street? They'll say, because we're great at what we do, or we're the best at what we do. I don't know too many companies that don't say that. They all think that they're the best at what they do, right? They really feel proud of their work, and that's a good thing. However, it is not a differentiator. And what we need to do as a company is be able to dig down and figure out not just what makes us different, but what makes us different in the eyes of our best clients, those clients who we want to attract, what makes us different in their eyes and special in their eyes. And that's how we set ourselves apart. And one way to do that, by the way, you talked, Roger, about gaining expertise, perhaps in a specific industry, for example. As you become known as an expert, that is a way to differentiate yourself, because then you're digging down into the needs of a business that you really understand. And then other businesses in that industry are going to say, well, so-and-so is the accounting firm for my industry. They really understand my issues and my industry. I have to have them, and I will pay whatever premium they are asking for.
Yeah, so I think this goes down to the base or the root of features and benefits, and getting very clear on not focusing so much on the tasks that we're doing, the features that we're bringing to the table. It's the benefits that the client is going to receive working with us. And I love how you described it. It's got to get to the point where those benefits become painfully obvious. This is why they are so different from any other accounting business. And it allows us to become then the premier accounting firm in the area. And being that premier accounting firm in the area, it's varies firm by firm. Some it's niche focused. It's literally we work with this industry and we do it very, very well. E-commerce, we work with realtors, we work with, let's say, contractors. I mean, you can get very particular about the niches, but I think at the same time, it can also be specialty. The pumpkin plan is a good example. The principles of the pumpkin plan, when you're able to implement those strategies, allow you to focus on different industries, but apply very, very deliberate and intentional strategies with each of them. It's the same for profit first, as well as becoming a profit and growth expert. Each of these designations allow someone to offer a unique service in their market and become that expert that really is not specific to an industry, but it's particular to an expertise as to business implementation. So I like how we're going here. So let's go to the third element, and I think this is going to be a good capstone to what we're talking about here.
Great. Yeah. So the third element is your systems and processes. And this is important because if you have work that you do that you are the only person that can do it, or somebody else in your firm is the only person that can do it, then your system, your process of delivering your end result is not repeatable, and it's all on your shoulders, and you can only expand to the point where however many hours you can work. And if you're not there, it doesn't happen. So you need those systems and processes in place in order to continue to grow. And they have to be the systems and processes that will support your unique offering being delivered to your best clients.
So the thing that I think is so hugely important about this is, as an accounting professional, you may be very good at what you're doing. You can produce quality financial reports. Nobody's questioning the validity of the numbers that you're offering your clients. But what we're challenging here is the efficiency in which you produce those. If it takes you, let's say, 10 hours to do a 5-hour job, yes, the numbers are accurate, but because you don't have a process, a system, something that you're able to duplicate, then what we're dealing with here is you're not efficient, therefore you're not nearly as profitable as you could be. And at the end of the day, what we need to do is build a business that's based upon duplicatable processes that demonstrate an efficiency that lend to profitability. So that's what we're working for here. Is you're obviously at this point working with clients. It's evident that you're providing a great service, but I agree with you. The challenge is have you gotten it down to a routine now that is a system that is just second nature, and is it one that can be duplicated? And at that point, now we're looking at growth. We're looking at potential to actually expand. And I don't mean that in the sense that you have to take on an employee. Some people I know want to remain that solo entrepreneur, but it allows you that option. And I think it's more entertaining to then consider that option, because then it allows you to focus on perhaps some of the more sexy things of the business while you delegate some of the other things that are now duplicatable and things that can be delegated. So those three things, as they intersect, really define what your offering is and what your business does. So that's your sweet spot, correct?
Yes, exactly. And I do want to say something else about how efficiency plays into this.
Uh-huh.
When you have a top client base that has similar types of businesses, let's say if you're working with businesses or they're a similar type of person, you can create the systems and processes that specifically answer their needs.
Yeah.
And what happens I hear a lot of business owners say, well, I can work with anybody and I like learning about new businesses or new industries. But you talked about the 10 hours versus 5 hours. Think about the time that it takes every time you have to learn a new business. And what happens is you never really develop that expertise and you never develop those repeatable systems that work every time. So that's another piece of why your systems have to intersect with your top clients and your unique offering.
Yeah. The thing I would add to that is, as you grow your business and take on staff, one of the things that I notice in accounting firms is you can hire quality individuals that are either CPAs, accountants, bookkeepers, tax preparers. They come with that expertise. They come with the experience. And so you start to assign them clients. You start to work with businesses. And in the process, the quality of the work might be great, but the challenge becomes, one, is the quality of the work consistent client over client? Meaning, does accountant A do the same type of client care and work and delivery as accountant B with the clients that they're assigned? And if, let's say, accountant A goes on vacation, maternity leave, gets sick, can accountant B step in and pick up the work because they're following the same process, the same system? And so what we're talking about here is, do you have clients in a position where they're saying, well, I'd rather work with client or accountant A than accountant B because I hear that they're better at this, that, or the other? Well, the systems are meant to allow you to deliver a consistent deliverable to your client base, and with confidence as the owner of the business, ensure that there is a quality and an expectation that you can sell. So there's a lot of elements here that are very important as the efficiency is looked at, because these processes being duplicatable are really at the end what's ensuring not just the deliverable that you're giving at the end, but the profitability in which you're able to provide it. So lots of elements here on this production side of the whole equation. So let's talk now about an accounting firm standing out from others like theirs, and in a way, stop competing on price. How does this all come into the price question?
Oh, well, the price question is huge. So if you look like a commodity, meaning there is nothing different in the eyes of your clients or prospective clients, if there's nothing different about you versus the accounting firm down the street, then there's one element that they can differentiate on, and that's price. So they will look to ask you to lower your prices, or they'll say, well, the guy down the street
Yep.
is charging half of what you are, therefore I'm going with him. You don't want to be in that situation. So if you can create in your clients' minds a match between that thing that you do that is really important to them and what they really are willing to pay for, that's where you can get a premium for your services. And again, it could be just about you've developed a reputation for expertise. It could be, in addition to that, we talk about something called area of innovation, which means that there are three main areas that you can develop and continue to innovate around, but you have to pick one. One of those three areas is price, and we don't recommend that any small business try to compete on price, because what you're doing then is you are trying to be the lowest price offering, and most of the time you end up not being profitable. The other two areas are either convenience or a quality. So I'm not talking about high quality, because again, that's like saying you're the best, but I'm talking about a specific quality that you have in your business. So for example, maybe your firm is really fast at producing results and you have clients who really value that, and that's a match, and they're willing to pay for that. Or maybe, like you said, you're super accurate and they are willing to pay higher prices to be really confident that you never make a mistake. But usually the unique offering is something a little different than that. So maybe it's something like I know some accounting firms that what they what they say is unique about them is exactly what their clients value, which is they educate their client base. Because a lot of clients go into the accounting relationship feeling behind the eight ball because they don't really understand the numbers and they don't always understand what their accountants are talking about, and they feel embarrassed by that. So you could be that accounting firm that gives great education so that your clients always understand what you're telling them and how to interpret the information that you're giving them. So that's one example, but it really has to match what your best clients want from you. It's not a random thing like, oh, I think I'm going to be unique this way. If your top clients don't value that, they won't pay more for it.
So what you're describing here is, I think we as accounting professionals need to become more clear as to that experience that the client is having with us and their takeaways. And as you become more and more specific as to what that looks like, I think it's easier to then not sell on just the commodity of we prepared tax or financial reports or tax returns. You're able to offer additional information. And I loved how you were talking about the education of the client. One of the things that we really emphasize on is the point that accounting is the language of business. It's a mantra that we've all heard, but the extension of that is the fact that the accounting professional then needs to become the translator. The business owner does not have to become proficient necessarily in accounting to run their business, because if they have a great translator, someone that can draw attention to the things that they need to be knowing, all of a sudden you become integral as to their ability to make well-informed business decisions. And so if you're able to actually help them better understand the financial reports, that helps them see you as a key element of the business model. The other thing that I think is very important here is that you brought in the fact that every business can choose what that expertise is. You can lead with, obviously, you provide accounting services. I think that's just having the obvious. But now let's talk about what makes you unique from any other accounting firm in the area. And it can be the niche of the industry or services that you provide. It can be, obviously, your expertise and the certifications you have as additional value-added services that basically distinguish you from anyone else. So let me break away here real quickly and just bring up a thing of our sponsors. I just want to make mention of a few things that I believe our listeners need to be listening to. It's a few things that actually relate to what we've been discussing. And the first happens to be from Color Accounting. Color Accounting is a program specifically designed to help non-accounting professionals become comfortable with and understand the accounting model. It's an interactive way of learning the accounting business model, and most importantly, adapts for people in the sense that it is both tactile. They get to experience and move the transactions through a kind of like a board game experience. It's taught in a non-accounting language to help non-accountants really become comfortable with the entire process. This is a phenomenal program that I encourage all accounting professionals, even CPAs and enrolled agents, to go through, because as accounting professionals, it allows us to understand how best to communicate all this information in a layman term fashion. And so it really bridges the business owner and client relationship. The next thing is a book called Famous or Rich. Every one of us as entrepreneurs need to consider, why are we doing this? What's our passion? Are we trying to do this to become famous or rich? And as we become more clear in that, I think it helps us make more informed decisions moving forward as we run our companies. So get a copy of this ebook, Famous or Rich, and you decide for yourself which is perhaps the best for you. The other I'd like to point out is Donna is sharing with us today something that I think is very important. We have a free pumpkin plan booster pack, which you can actually use to determine your sweet spot and unique offering. You can get it by going to pumpkinplanyourbiz.com. I'll actually put this information for all the things that I've mentioned so far in the episode description. And in the description, you'll be able to get the links that you need for this information and find out more about Color Accounting, Famous or Rich, as well as the Pumpkin Plan Action or Booster Pack. So with that, Donna, let me kind of come full circle to something else that I think is very important. You're a business person. You're an entrepreneur at your core. I'm kind of curious, do you have a mantra or something that you use to keep you grounded and focused as you deal with the day-to-day operations of your business?
I do. And I actually have it written on my whiteboard on my wall. So I see, well, I have a few. Can I share more than one?
You may share more than one. Everybody get your pens and pencils handy. There we
Okay.
go.
Okay. So the first one that I look at every day is get comfortable being uncomfortable. And the reason why I have that on my whiteboard is because I know that the only way that I ever make progress in my business is by pushing my comfort zone. So
Hmm.
when things have gotten too easy, I know that I'm not actually moving forward. So that's one. And then the others are have fun at work, because I do believe you should love what you do and it should make you happy at least 80% of the time.
Uh-huh.
And create your own destiny, which you read in my bio. That's a big theme for me. And also do something good for the world.
Very good. I'm always happy when I get more than one. So the thing here is you're obviously very deliberate with those. You're living with intent, and I like that. Let me ask this question. What is your legacy? You talk about destiny. What's your legacy, and what do you feel you would like people to know when all is said and done?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question. I believe that the legacy that I'm working towards is when I'm talking to somebody, a business owner or a business coach or a business strategist, and I help them to see things in a new way, and that breaks them out of that feeling that they're stuck or they don't know how to move forward, and then they go out and do something good for the world. And I'm so passionate about this idea that I can have this exponential impact on the world, because if I support the business coaches who are out there rolling up their sleeves and working with the small businesses, then they can help all of these small businesses stay afloat, to thrive, to impact the world economy. And I feel like I played a small role in that.
It's like breathing the breath of life into the business. I like that. That's
Yes.
very good. So you spoke years ago of changing your life to be at home with your family, raising your kids and such. When they see you as a mother, what is it that you hope they see?
Okay. So my I think that that what they do see, at least I hope what they do see, is somebody who found a way to be devoted to their family, but also devoted to other passions in life, and created a business that made a difference in the world. And I always had I've worked from home for many years, and I always carved out that half hour when my kids got home from school to just be available for them, because anybody with kids knows that the first 10 or 15 minutes that they're home, they've got a lot to say, and then they clam up. So, and I have a chair in my office, and my son would come home from school and just plant himself in that chair for like 10 minutes. And I would just let him talk about whatever he wanted to talk about. And then he was fine and he went off to do his homework. But I felt like even in that 10 minutes, we had that period of connection, and I was then able to go back to work. So I had that flexibility to focus on my work and also focus on my kids.
That's lovely. I think it's nice to hear that they get that chance to come in and decompress. I wouldn't go so far as to say vent, but definitely just speak freely, and you listen. And I think you're right. After that, they're probably going to clam up as they normally would. And maybe their defenses are down and they just need to talk. So all of a sudden, here you are listening, and you get to have that connection. And it's really where you're kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of your children and their lives and what's going on. I think that's amazing. That's wonderful. What are you thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful for a lot of things. And right now, as we're recording this, the world is going through an incredible disruption with the coronavirus and our economy being partially shut down. So I think that's really heightened for me the things that I'm grateful for. And I am so grateful for my business and for every person who is a part of my business, because we've all been here to support each other. And I'm also just intensely grateful to have a roof over my head and food on the table, and that my family is healthy right now.
Amen to all that. I think
Yes.
I think that when this is being listened to, because we are recording this at a particular time in history, I think when we have the listeners listening in, they're going to have a unique perspective of how this is all played out. And it's right now not clear for any of us as to how we're going to be impacted, both personally, who we're going to know individually that's going to be impacted, whether it be through the economy or through the pandemic. It's it's scary because of the unknown at this point. But when people are listening to this in hindsight, they're going to be able to reflect on not only how difficult this truly has been, but at the same time, I'm hoping they'll be able to recognize the blessings. Spoke with a friend of ours, and as hard as this has been, having to homeschool her kids unexpectedly and having all these challenges of keeping the kids in the home, she has recognized that her older children are playing with the younger children and that there's a greater family unity. And there's, from a mother's perspective, a great deal of satisfaction of seeing, wow, the family unit is that important and we are pulling together. As challenging as it is, we're going to be able to look back on this as a family, as humanity, and hopefully see within ourselves our better selves. And I hope as we're listening to this in the future and we can reflect back that we can see, in fact, we did rise to the occasion. I think it's a testament to our human abilities as to how we're going to get through this. And I hope we can look back and be proud of what we were able to do. So well said on that. Let me just kind of recap a few things here, and then I'm going to ask Donna for a final thought, and I'll let you think about that. But let me just kind of restate who our sponsors are. First is Universal Accounting Center, and with that we have a few things to be aware of. First of all, I mentioned before the program Color Accounting. I encourage you to go through the program yourself and see how it in fact will actually help you better communicate with your clients and better retain your clients as they see you helping them understand the information you're providing in a useful and meaningful way. The other I would encourage you to do is get a copy of the book Famous or Rich and identify for yourself what really are your motivations as you're working in your business. And as an accountrepreneur, decide really what is your drive and focus so that you can in fact work towards it with intent and purpose. And then the other happens to be, again, this Pumpkin Plan Booster Pack that Donna has made available. I invite you to go to pumpkinplanyourbusiness.com and see what that entails so that you can actually use these principles not only in your own company, building the premier accounting business, but at the same time use these as principles that you can then implement with your clients and help them see you, in fact, as a trusted strategic advisor offering much more value add to the services that you're providing. In addition to this, Universal Accounting Center is also offering that you get a book called In the Black. In the Black happens to be 9 principles to help your business be more profitable. It's allowing you to implement 9 specific principles within your company so that you can actually make profit a deliberate element of what you're trying to do. The other happens to be a book called Red to Black in 30 Days. It's a small business accountant's guide to quick turnarounds. And in fact, it is the business first responders handbook, the how-to guide on how to actually help businesses address their most common frustration and concern, which is cash flow management. So in fact, they can be in the black, applying then those principles that I'd mentioned before of the 9 business principles that you need to be using in your business to be in the black. So take advantage of these offers. They are there for you to work on your business and, most importantly, build the premier accounting firm in your area. So Donna, what are some of the final thoughts that you'd like to share here at the end?
Well, my final thoughts are that anybody can apply these principles to their business and create a business that is their dream vision, their dream business, or aligned with their vision of what their business and their life should be.
Very good. So let me kind of summarize what I think we've discussed here today. And I think it's very important because Donna did an excellent job of introducing us to how in our business we have 3 things that when they intersect, not only can we be most effective and happy with our businesses, but also profitable. And it's becoming more and more clear as to what an ideal client is and what it is that we offer them as services. And lastly, how we do so efficiently with a process or a system. And as those 3 things converge, we're going to find that our businesses are in fact running efficiently, and we're proud of them because we can actually look back and see that we've built an excellent business. Now, with that in mind, I challenge you to apply these principles in your own company and see what it is you can do to improve next, whether it be a challenge or an opportunity that you're facing. We all need to be working on our business and spending the time needed to actually do what is needed and intentional channel for our business to grow and become more profitable. So with that in mind, I do encourage you to now listen to our other episodes and, of course, subscribe to this podcast so that you can build the premier accounting business. With that, I also invite you to reach out to Universal Accounting Center. If you're interested in learning how you can apply these principles in your business, you can go to universalaccountingschool.com, as well as give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. We enjoy doing these podcasts, and we hope that you have found them to be both entertaining, informative, and inspirational. And with that in mind, just remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.